Donald Trump. The name itself is now inseparable from controversy, especially when it comes to race. His pronouncements on black people, both during and before his presidency, have sparked outrage, debate, and deep soul-searching within America. Can a man with such a public record truly understand, let alone empathize with, the black experience? This essay delves into that question, examining Trump's words and deeds, their impact on black communities, and the shadow his legacy casts on the upcoming 2024 election. It's impossible to dissect Trump's relationship with race without acknowledging the weight of history. America's foundation is built upon the enslavement of black people, and the echoes of that injustice reverberate to this day. Trump, intentionally or not, has often tapped into this historical current, using language that evokes deep-seated fears and prejudices. His rhetoric, far from promoting unity, has instead exacerbated existing racial tensions. The phrase "black jobs" itself sounds jarring, a stark reminder of segregationist policies. When Trump claimed immigrants were stealing jobs from black Americans, the backlash was swift.
Critics accused him of perpetuating a dangerous narrative. They argued it ignored the complex realities of the black experience in the labor market.
To understand the full impact of Trump's rhetoric, we must examine it against the backdrop of the systemic inequalities that black Americans continue to face. These inequalities are not abstract concepts, but lived realities that shape the daily lives of millions. They manifest in everything from disparities in healthcare and education to disproportionate rates of poverty and incarceration.
For instance, black Americans are more likely to live in impoverished neighborhoods with underfunded schools, limiting their access to quality education and perpetuating a cycle of poverty. They are also more likely to be stopped and searched by police, even when innocent, reflecting a deep-seated bias within the criminal justice system.
Trump's policies, far from addressing these systemic issues, often exacerbated them. His tax cuts primarily benefited wealthy corporations and individuals, doing little to uplift struggling black communities. His attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act threatened to leave millions, including many black Americans, without access to affordable health care. In the age of social media, marginalized communities have found a powerful tool for amplifying their voices and challenging dominant narratives. One such example is the #BlackJob movement, a digital response to Trump's assertion that immigrants were taking jobs away from black Americans.
The hashtag, which went viral in the aftermath of Trump's comments, served as a platform for black professionals across various fields to showcase their achievements and challenge the limited view presented by the then president. Doctors, lawyers, educators, entrepreneurs, black men and women from all walks of life used the hashtag to demonstrate the diversity and vibrancy of their contributions to American society.
The #BlackJob movement was more than just a hashtag. It was a powerful affirmation of black excellence and a testament to the resilience of a community that has long been subjected to harmful stereotypes and systemic barriers. It was a digital counter-narrative, reclaiming the narrative and challenging those who sought to define black identity within narrow and limiting parameters. Section 5. Education, the bridge Trump didn't build. Education has long been hailed as the great equalizer. For black Americans, this is especially true.
Yet Trump's policies did little to address systemic disparities. His support for school choice was seen by many as undermining public education, particularly in predominantly black and brown communities.
These communities often lack resources to navigate school choice, leaving them vulnerable to underperforming schools. Trump's cuts to federal funding exacerbated these challenges, further entrenching existing inequalities.
His rollback of Obama-era guidance on racial disparities raised concerns about policies pushing black students out of classrooms and into the criminal justice system.
Section 6. Kamala Harris and the politics of racial identity. Donald Trump's fraught relationship with race took center stage once again during the 2020 presidential election, this time with Kamala Harris, the first black and South Asian woman to hold the office of vice president, as his target.
Trump repeatedly attacked Harris's identity, questioning her eligibility to hold office and making baseless accusations about her racial background. These attacks, which echoed his previous attempts to delegitimize Barack Obama's presidency by questioning his birthplace, were widely condemned as racist and xenophobic.
They reflected a pattern of behavior in which Trump sought to exploit racial anxieties and divisions for political gain, often resorting to dog whistles and outright lies to undermine his opponents. Trump's attacks on Harris were not just about her race, but about the changing demographics of America itself.
Her very presence on the national stage, as a powerful and accomplished woman of color, represented a threat to the traditional power structures that Trump and his supporters sought to preserve.
Section 7. A pattern of words and actions. To fully grasp the depth of the controversy surrounding Trump's relationship with black people, it's crucial to recognize that it wasn't merely about isolated incidents or off-the-cuff remarks. It was about a consistent pattern of behavior, a pattern woven from his words, his policies, and his appointments.
From his early days as a real estate developer, when his company was sued by the Department of Justice for refusing to rent apartments to black tenants, to his championing of the birther conspiracy theory against Barack Obama, Trump's history is littered with accusations of racism and prejudice. His presidency, far from assuaging these concerns, only served to amplify them.
His administration was marked by a series of policies that disproportionately harmed black communities, from the Muslim travel ban to the separation of migrant families at the border. His rhetoric, often laced with coded language and appeals to racial resentment, further inflamed tensions and emboldened white supremacist groups. Section 8. Black voters and the question of trust. The erosion of trust between black communities and Donald Trump reached a critical point during his presidency. Many black voters, who had initially approached his candidacy with a cautious wait-and-see attitude, became disillusioned by his policies and rhetoric.
They saw his administration's rollback of environmental regulations, which disproportionately impacted black and brown communities already burdened by environmental hazards, as a direct threat to their health and well-being. They saw his attempts to suppress black voter turnout through restrictive voting laws and baseless accusations of voter fraud as an assault on their fundamental rights as citizens.
By the end of Trump's term, the chasm between him and black voters had widened considerably. His attempts to court black support with promises of economic opportunity rang hollow in the face of his administration's record. The question for many black voters was no longer whether Trump understood their concerns, but whether he even cared. The 2024 election, a crossroads for America. As the 2024 election cycle approaches, Donald Trump's legacy looms large. His presidency's assault on democratic norms has left an indelible mark on American society.
The upcoming election is more than just a contest. It's a referendum on the soul of the nation. For Black Americans, the stakes are high. The outcome will impact their access to healthcare and education, and their safety in their communities.
To Section 10. Beyond Trump, the work that remains. While Donald Trump's presidency may be over, the issues his rhetoric and policies highlighted, systemic racism, economic inequality, and the erosion of democratic norms, remain as pressing as ever.
The work of dismantling these deeply entrenched systems of oppression will require a sustained and multifaceted effort, one that goes beyond partisan politics and electoral cycles. It will require a fundamental shift in consciousness, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about America's past and present. It will require a commitment to listening to and learning from the experiences of those who have been marginalized and oppressed.
Most importantly, it will require a willingness to act, to challenge injustice wherever it exists, and to demand better for ourselves and for future generations. The fight for racial justice is a marathon, not a sprint, and it will require the collective efforts of all Americans to achieve a more perfect union. Section 11. A more perfect union, aspiration versus reality. The phrase "a more perfect union," enshrined in the preamble to the United States Constitution, has long served as both an aspiration and a stark reminder of the gap between America's ideals and its realities.
For Black Americans, this gap has been particularly pronounced, as their history has been one of struggle for basic rights and recognition. Donald Trump's presidency, far from bridging this gap, only served to widen it. His rhetoric and policies stoked racial divisions, eroded trust in democratic institutions, and exacerbated existing inequalities.
His legacy will continue to cast a long shadow on American society for years to come. The task before us now is to grapple with the consequences of his presidency, to heal the wounds it inflicted, and to build a more just and equitable society for all Americans. It's a daunting task, but one that we cannot afford to shy away from. The future of our democracy depends on it. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content.